Mini episode 1172 of the FDH Lounge is brought to you by Sportsology, delivering unconventional columns and webcasts about sports, TV, music, movies, and more. Follow them on the web at sportsology.com.
The FDH Lounge. You'll want to schedule your life around it.
A long time ago, on a gloomy, wet Cleveland spring night, two men stand alone amidst the late-night drizzle. Their voices echo across the vacant station parking lot as they debate the merits of the great American radio show that have been missing for far too long. On that night, an idea was born. That idea became the FDH Lounge. Welcome to the FDH Lounge.
Hello everyone, welcome to FDH Lounge mini episode 1172. This is FDH managing partner Rick Morris here, and back with us here is the first of the original, or post-original dignitaries. We had our original group, and the first guy to come on board thereafter, several months later, good friend Russ Cohen, part of the gang since 2007, also proprietor of the great Sportsology site, author of countless books on the world of sports, some of them about hockey, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the first part of the 2019-2020 NHL season, all of the big developments that have been going on thus far, and there's a lot to talk about. It almost seems like more so than there would normally be at about the beginning of December in a normal season, but that's just my sense of it. We'll see what good friend Russ Cohen has to say. Russ, thank you as always for being here, my man. How are you today?
Good, always a pleasure. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on, and I do think a little more than usual. I think even the GMs are feeling the pressure a little earlier than usual because everything is so tight.
It is, and that's one of the things I want to ask you about, because I was talking with a friend in recent days about this, and I don't think either one of us is missing anything by saying this, that when it comes to hockey coaching changes and the like, I think hockey's the most reactionary of the sports, the major sports, the sport that takes less into account, well, what about the next couple of years? It all seems to be about this year that we're in. It really struck me a couple of years ago when Joel Quenneville got let go, I think after, 3 games? And it's not to say that never happens in other sports. Mike Brown famously lasted, I think, about 4 games with the Lakers, but that's because it was the Lakers. Yeah. Yeah, it seems to happen in hockey more often, and you look at it, and especially with somebody like Babcock. Now, the more we go along, the more we're finding out about the culture of things with the team there, and that perhaps it had more to do with than where they were at in the standings. And indeed, that would almost kind of make more sense if they felt like they needed a culture change, because again, this was a long-term plan that they were invested in with Mike Babcock to lead this team going forward. And I'd like to get your sense of this. If you agree that hockey seems a little bit more reactionary year to year, and what that's about. If it's about in hockey that maybe they figure that, and again, not that personnel isn't important for certain types of systems, but I don't get the sense in hockey that there's quite anything like the whole difference between the 4-3 and the 3-4 in the NFL, and the makeup of some of these NBA teams, of the way that they're trying to build around certain superstars. Do they just feel that maybe the coaches are a little bit schematically a little bit more interchangeable, perhaps? Or what would kind of make hockey a little bit more reactionary on this, as far as a team getting off to a slow start? That's it, you're done, if you agree with the premise, that is.
Well, I agree with the premise to the point if they feel like the team is tuning out the message, then you have a problem. Because, most teams have 2 high salary players, and the rest are all good secondary and such players after that. And if you're not getting a lot of juice out of those top guys, their exploring's not there, then they do start to look at the coach. And if it's a situation where they feel like the players are tuning out the coach, like the Leafs were with Babcock, then they were going to go make that change now, even though we thought, well, it's not had this season. But they didn't want to wait that long because they didn't want to let possible playoff chances for this year slip through their fingers. So they didn't do that, and then, of course, we found out all the things that we found out, and found out what a bad guy Babcock is. We thought he was just a jerk. It went way beyond that. And I think the culture change in the NHL isn't really just because Babcock. I think there's been people trying to get this point across for a couple of years, and it just, for whatever reason, where we are in the world, it hit hockey this year, and I think it's for the better. But, getting back to the Leafs, they win a few games. Now they're sort of like in this 500 mode area, and outside of the playoffs, which is not where they expected to be, they play 30 games. So, in the next 52 games, they have to figure it out. You go look at the Bay, I said I would have fired John Cooper during the summer, but everybody said, but you can't, Russ, because they just gave him an extension. And I'm like, well, you should never give a coach an extension just because he's having a great regular season until you see how the whole season went. And the whole season didn't go great. They got eliminated in the first round. Now they're even worse. They still should make the playoffs with the personnel they have, but they're going to limp in, and I don't think they're going to have a good playoff anyhow. So if they even make it, which right now they're, how many points out? They're 6 points out of the wild card. It's not looking good. John Cooper could get fired any minute. Like, if they decide that this team is shooting him out after Wade Point gets his money and Kucherov got his money and everything else, they could make a change. Now, when people say, well, they don't want to use that money on John Cooper, well, John Cooper's a real good name in his league, and if he goes out there and he's on the market, Tampa's only going to have to pay his salary the rest of the year. He'll probably get a job next year, and then there's a book. People forget about that part of it. So nobody's job is really safe when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's true.
If the expectations are there, that's the whole key.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if Tampa Bay, I understood bringing him back even after the playoff disappointment, but with a roster that is arguably the most skilled in the league, if they miss the playoffs altogether, yeah, sorry, you're done. I mean, there's no excuse for that. As far as it goes with Babcock, I hear you on that, because this is one of these deals where when he was with the Red Wings, who I famously, that's my team, it was a thing most of the time with the Red Wings. It was just kind of like the way it was when LeBron James was playing for my Cavs. Like, he's on my team, so I back him. But, absent the personal warmth, shall we say. Because with Babcock, and it's not that it was a sign of anything else that we have found out. It was just something that rubbed me the wrong way. In 2006, when Steve Yzerman appeared to get the brunt of, you remember the whole Chuck Noll, Terry Bradshaw, it's time to get on with your life. I felt the way Babcock shoved him out the door. I mean, Yzerman's my favorite athlete in any sport ever. So from there on in, it was like, okay, I'm not real fond of Mike Babcock. He's maybe the best coach in the league. I'm glad he's coaching my team. Won the Red Wings another cup and another Eastern Conference championship from there. But, I'm familiar with the concept of rooting for a Mike Babcock team despite not being real fond of him personally. And maybe that's why a lot of the Maple Leafs fans were looking at things up until the time when the team really kind of started to go south. But then, like you said, these things have come out about him. Subsequently, the Calgary Flames have made a coaching change because of unearthed, I believe, abuse matters that were unearthed. And so this is one of these things where, much like in the world 2 years ago with the whole Me Too kind of thing happening here, in hockey it's a different kind of thing, albeit ironically that has kind of manifested itself in the junior leagues as past incidences of actual abuse have come to light there. But the way that coaches are throwing their weight around at the NHL level, like you said, it's kind of having a moment, and I agree with you in the sense of that being a good thing, because I do believe in the virtues of toughness and strength and all that kind of stuff, but there's nothing I hate more than a fake tough guy. I've said on the show, I'm not a big fan of Bill O'Brien of the Houston Texans. He kind of rubs me as a fake tough guy. I hate that kind of crap, and if that's getting rubbed out of the NHL, this kind of bullying for the sake of bullying kind of thing in terms of leadership, I agree with you. That'd be a positive.
Well, I don't know. I'm reading this thing in the Detroit Free Press about Chris Chelios, who is now saying that Babcock tried to bench him for the Winter Classic when it was in Chicago. Of course, I covered that. And he said that he tried to help his freshman in the outdoor game because he knew it was his hometown. Just things were so unnecessary just to show that he's the boss. And he got a minute 57 ice time before being benched in that game, which again, maybe because Chris Chelios was a little bit older, he wasn't playing well in that game. I saw Babcock did Spezza, and he benched him first home game in Toronto. Of course, all of his family was going to be there. He's from the area, and he didn't play. But in this particular situation, basically, Chelio says he was drinking on the bench. And so, he's drinking beer. And I got to be honest, I don't think I believe him on this, because I don't even think Mike Babcock would allow that.
Okay. I can hear you. That point makes sense.
What I'm saying is, every time we hear stories from players about these coaches, you have to now decide if it's true or not, and then have to hear corroborating stories from other players so that we know it's true. Well, right now, this is just Chelios, to me, spouting off. Right.
Could be. And it pains me to say that because I'm a Chelly guy, but that's got to be further substantiated. The whole thing about him not getting
even
a lot of...
Even the free press says they was not immediately able to verify the claim.
Right. Yeah. I wonder why. But, again...
He said it on the Spit and Chiclet show, which, again, take that for what it's worth. So that's what I'm saying. It's a minefield right now.
It is. And, while we're on this subject, before we, sort of segue back to anything on ice, this appears to be the spot to kind of bring this up, that we have seen something that is very, very, very monumental in the world of hockey, and that perhaps this has been sort of building to this in recent years. But what we can, I think, say is, in terms of all mass media in hockey, dude's doing a podcast now, and not to rank on podcasts, because, hey, this is one. But Don Cherry is probably done in major media, which is, again, I always say to people down here in the States, because, again, some of the circles I run in are a little bit different than yours, Russ. Not being on the East Coast, I'm in flyover country. In certain areas of flyover country, people aren't as conversant with hockey. And the way that I always just kind of say it is just to give a frame of reference. Ironically, their politics couldn't be more different, but I always say like the Howard Cosell of Canada, like the towering sports media figure in the country, the way that Cosell used to be down here. And it's a thing where I got into a little bit of an argument with a friend of mine on Facebook about this. Actually, I'll just say it. My friend Paul Teeple, I used to do a show with the old Sports Talk Network, and Teeps is, God bless him, he's a very woke fella, and it's about time Don Cherry was relegated to the dustbin of history, and I took issue with that, and again, I'm not going to defend how he said what he said. I think he was just trying to make a patriotic point. He's an 85-year-old guy. They don't always speak so precise, shall we say. And, my God, the things that come out of the mouth of the average 85-year-old are a lot worse than that.
I know about that.
Yeah.
I will have to say, though, I did not defend him, and I was not upset that they did that. I think the biggest thing is, however he did mean to say it, it's not because he wouldn't apologize.
Right.
Don Cherry doesn't think he did anything wrong, and that's probably just as the problem as anything.
Right. And the irony is that for as much as people wanted to take his comments and, hey, he's talking about immigrants and sort of like make it a racial kind of a thing, who does Don Cherry seem to hate more than anybody else? White European immigrants. So, I mean, I don't think it was racial. Nobody hates a dude from Sweden or Russia like that guy. So, I mean, I don't...
But the controversy of it was, I mean, it did sound like immigrants, but even if it's not, and you make a point there, anybody wearing a poppy that day, if it fell off, Don Cherry would be like, you're unpatriotic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's not true.
Right. And, again, and like I said, I'm not going to defend the way it came out of his mouth. I understand the sentiment. I applaud that. I believe he's a very patriotic guy, and I'm just, where I got into it with my old buddy Teeple was he was doing the whole dancing on the grave kind of a thing, and I just, again, I'll just say I don't think that's appropriate for a legend and somebody who, has brought as much joy and entertainment to as many people as he has over a period of time. So that is something that, his career came to a halt from when we last convened to do this, Russ, which was right at the beginning of the season. So between then and now, several weeks ago, this went down, and he is done and probably just going to be doing the podcast gig from here on in, and maybe something else on the margins of the major media, but even that might take a while to play out. In terms of...
We're in early December, and look at how the landscape has changed just for all these things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird, and like I said, in comparing it to the Me Too moment, because that's a thing in terms of a big cultural land shift, because I remember at the time, you'd roll out of bed in the morning and be like, Charlie Rose is out of a job, Matt Lauer's out of a job, like all these things happening, and hockey seems to be getting, and it's not the same cause. It's not, they were all inappropriately sexually harassing women or whatever. It's different causes, different things, but let's just say the commonality, Russ, and the thing that they have in common with the folks from the Me Too movement, running afoul of the way the world is in 2019. I think that's a catch-all that binds all of these folks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, and just the cultural mores, where we're at, and again, and we can all debate, how much of this is for the positive, and I might say that not all of it is, particularly in terms of the sensitivity of people. But again, you got to be realistic in terms of keeping your job, and there are trade-offs when you work for major corporations, and that's
a point right there that you make that's very strong, and the NHL is going to come out with rules and guidelines about their culture, and I think that's smart.
They're going to, and that's, I know that when I was sort of going back and forth with people about this again, he doesn't like the terminology. I feel that he is somebody that is representative of it anyways, of one of these cancel culture people. I am not a fan in any way, shape, or form of cancel culture. And I think that a little bit of that kind of got Don Cherry. But by the same token, again, he did not recognize the realities of the world in 2019, and that you can't just say things the way that you said things. Hell, even 6 months ago in some ways. Although 6 months ago, this would have gotten him in trouble. I don't know how many years you'd have to go back for what Don Cherry said to be uncontroversial. But that was one where that ended his career. So many monumental things happening off the ice, on the ice. I'm curious to know, in terms of your theories. You've always got good theories here on stuff. It's been a very exciting product on ice this year, even more so than usual. Some of the key characteristics of the way the game has gone over the first chunk of the season: higher scoring, more comebacks, more overtime games.
But there's too many overtimes, too many shootouts, though.
Okay.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword. I don't like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and there is, and again, things can go too far, and there can be such a thing as too much offense in sports. I always say that in football, for me, the sweet spot is like, a 23-17 game. I don't, although again, you give me a choice between the Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl and the Rams-Patriots one, and I take the Eagles-Patriots one hands down, not least of which because the Patriots lost. But, push comes to shove, I'd rather have a lot of scoring than no scoring, but somewhere in the middle is where I'm at. I don't know if I'm representative of the average fan, but in the NHL, again, we would lose patience, I think, with things. It would stop being exciting if every game was 8-7. So there does have to be a middle ground here.
I think there does, but what bugs me is like every game tonight is a +1, +2 differential, and that's because coaches are just doing so much work to get these players to prevent goals. Mm-hmm. Anything they can. Keep the middle free, get the puck out quick, skate the puck out quick, prevent shots, block shots. And so we do get some exciting games, and then some games are like, wow, 15 minutes went by and we didn't even have shots on goal. So kind of like a mixed bag. But overall, I still think it's a good product, but I would like to see less of that. Now, what I've been impressed with, a team like Washington, right? I know on our first show I picked them quiet. Mm-hmm. It was a better pick than I thought. I mean, they literally only have 4 losses on the year. Now 5 OG games, so if you want to start going with that, fine. But they're unbelievable. John Paul's in the pace for around 112, 115 points. We haven't seen that since 1991 with Brian Leach. Right around that time frame. Defensemen just don't do that anymore. Even if, you're talking about Mike Green or Eric Carlson, you get around 80-something points. 400 points is unbelievable. So you have that have Cale Makar, who so far is running away with the Calder, and he literally went from college last year to the NHL playoffs, did well in the playoffs, and now he's playing, and he's the best rookie out there, and he's one of the best defensemen in the league. And Colorado, as a result, has, again, for all the really just the garbage that Joe Sakic had to listen to for a couple of years, they're an elite franchise now. And even with all their injuries, and it's ran it out at times, they were missing guys here and there, but McKinnon has really pushed that team, having a heart-level season, and so you had them. And St. Louis is ahead of them. Like, we rarely ever see a team where we say, is there a chance that they could repeat? And there is absolutely a chance, because they made a trade for Justin Falk, and they got Bob Armstrong there, the GM got aggressive. And so they've got the most points in the West. That's really impressive, considering there is no cup hangover that's sort of showing there. So a lot of great teams, Boston as well. Always could be, the Islanders are doing way better than expected for sure. Again, cutting down that differential. Lou talked about it preseason. It's working. Game will change, though, in the postseason. We know that. And I'm not sure the Islanders will go far if they can't put up goals in the postseason, because that sort of victimized them last year. But at the end of the day, right now, there's a lot of teams that could win it. And for me, that's exciting. And the fact that there's a lot of things that could happen, like I said, with Carlson and other records. Now Ovechkin, who I thought might retire early, basically hinted, well, after it breaks Gretzky's goal record, he'll retire.
Right.
And just the fact that there's somebody who could break Gretzky's goal record is incredible. Lundqvist, I think, is fifth now or fourth. I think he's fourth now. I think he passed somebody else recently, and I think he passed Belfort. I want to say it's Belfort. I know he passed Cujo, and I think he may have passed Belfort, but he's right up there now, top 5 all-time goals. Like, that's something where, it's cool to see. So there's a lot of stuff converging this year.
There really is, and Leon Draisaitl, what he's been doing in Edmonton has really been off the charts. But last thing I want to ask you about is, and again, you mentioned the way that St. Louis has been playing. Coincidentally, and I don't know when's the last time this happened, but just as I was driving home before this taping tonight, channel surfing as I always do, what comes on the radio in one of these stations but Gloria? I was like, well, there's a sign right there. But as much as I truly loathe putting over any team in any sport from Boston, you mentioned it in passing there, what the Bruins are doing. And a lot of times, if you're looking at a Stanley Cup hangover, yeah, you might expect it to be St. Louis, and they've been partying all summer and whatever. But when you're the team that lost Game 7 on your own ice, much less the way that they did, again, it pains me to the core of my soul to put over what they're doing right now, but running away with the Atlantic Division is something I certainly didn't see coming.
No, I thought they would maybe be a one-point team this year because of that. Hasn't happened. By the way, Lundqvist is fifth. He is chasing Belfort. I think he passed Cujo. So it's pretty much on the money there, but I wasn't sure about the Belfort part. So I think he can get as high as that. I don't think he'll get as high as the one. But back to the Bruins, it's amazing. They are undefeated at home. They have plus 35 differential. Seems like they're practicing local with Patrice Bergeron. It has good young players. It's all working. They've got a great goalie tandem. Halak is doing great for them. Rask has always been great, even though the fans have been at odds with them. Again, look at the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've been missing everybody. 4 or 5 players have been out. I mean, it's unbelievable. Malcolm was out for a long time. They only have 3 home losses. They don't have near the players that even a team like Boston has, and somehow they're right in the thick of it again. So it just shows the greatness of Sidney Crosby. So yeah, it's a fun season. The last thing I want to say, though, that's not hockey related, but I just feel like I need to get into that.
Go ahead.
And I mean, so the second quarterback selected in the NFL 100, not one of them is named Darrelle Revis. He was a finalist. And I just think that's garbage. I saw Melquan play. Melquan was great. He was part of a great defense. Revis was better than Melquan because Revis didn't have a great defense. He was the defense. Willie Night Train Lane, I'll leave alone because I don't know enough about Willie Night Train Lane. Woodson, I'll say Woodson's better. Mike Haynes, I'm not sure Mike Haynes is better than Darrelle Revis, to be honest. And I saw Haynes his whole career. Deion Sanders, fine. You want to say he's better. Dale Green, fine. If you want to say he's better. Willie Brown, great. But I would put Revis in over Blunt or Haynes. And I just think it's baloney. So, anyhow.
He belongs on the list, I think. And, yeah, they called it Revis Island for a reason. The guys who are the true shutdown cover corners who you could put on somebody are rare. last note I'll leave you with, which is also non-hockey, I want to congratulate you as a Mets fan for having your franchise liberated from its cheap ownership. Mine isn't going to be anytime soon. We're going to lose Frankie Lindor because of these Dolan a-holes. So at least your franchise was liberated. Congratulations, Russ.
Well, I appreciate it. It's going to be 5 years down the line, but 5 years after this year, so 6 years, there will be a party at City Field. I will send out invites. It will be a very happy day.
I'll look forward to being there, and I will mark it on my calendar already. But always a pleasure going through the NHL landscape with you, Russ Cohen. I know you've always got a lot of book projects going on here, everything going great with Sportsology as well. Thank you so much for making time for us, my man.
No, thanks, Rick. Always great to catch up with you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, buddy. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to FDH Lounge mini episode number 1172.
As we bring the show to a close, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, all Clear Channel affiliates, TNT, TBS, USA, UPN, Deadspin.com, YouTube.com, YTMND.com, MySpace.com, various blogs, Fox News, CNN, CNBC, MSNBC, IamBoard.com, Billboard.com, Google.com, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN Classic, NBA TV, NFL Network, Sports Time Ohio, Athlon Magazine, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, The Boomerang Channel, QVC, BET, The Spice Channel, Steno Notebooks, Manwich, Papermate Office Supplies, waitresses, strippers, bartenders, garbage men, janitors, microwave popcorn, the writers of The Office, Scrubs, Entourage, My Name is Earl, Oz, Metalocalypse and the Boondocks, Aquafina, and the periodic table of elements.